Welcome back. It's the Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Spoke a lot about this yesterday. Vermont Lake Monsters not going the professional baseball route in 2021. They are going to be joining the college baseball summer ranks, the Futures League, which is one step lower than I probably wanted them to go. I really wanted them to join the NECBL, but overall, I think they did pretty good to join the Futures League. Joining us now for some more perspective is Howard Herman, longtime sports writer and columnist at the Berkshire Eagle in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, where they also have a Futures League team. So, Howard, how are you?
Brady, I'm great. You said what I said about 7 years ago. I was kind of initially hoping for the NECBL, which has a team in North Adams, Massachusetts, which is about 25 miles to our north. But the Futures League came in. The thing that you will all notice in the difference between the two, and there's an NECBL team down in Montpelier, is that the Futures League is run more like a minor league baseball team. Most of the ownership groups also own professional teams. The group in Pittsfield that owns the Suns, it owns the Hudson Valley Renegades of what used to be the New York Penn League, owns the St. Paul Saints that just became Minnesota's AAA team, and they run, and it's run much more like a small minor league. So that's what you'll notice.
So let me ask you a couple generic questions. Overall caliber of play in the Futures League, what do you see from an actual baseball standpoint?
It's gotten much better since Pittsfield joined the league. Pittsfield joined the league in its second year.
That would have been like 2012.
Yeah, something like that. It just had 4 teams, and then they doubled the number of teams. It started primarily as an opportunity for Division I and smaller division New England players, because there has been a requirement to have a certain percentage of either New England born or New England college players on a roster. That's kind of adjusted over the years because with more teams, it gets a little harder to find as many guys. What I've discovered over the years is the caliber of play has gotten much better. The caliber of play between the Futures League and the NECBL, which you use, is not great. Where the difference lies is also the same difference between the NECBL and the Cape Cod League. In the Futures League, you don't find as many guys with the big bat as you do in the Cape League, where they have all the primo college prospects. And you don't find as many guys that touch 100, and you get a couple more of those guys in the NECBL, and most of them go to the Cape. So that's really the biggest difference. The on the field product, the fielding is the same, pretty much. Guys hit pretty much the same. Just don't quite have as much power at the Futures League level.
What about the fan experience? Because I think a lot of people think, if the Lake Monsters just throw Lake Monsters jerseys on and bring out Champ the mascot, they're going to do just like they did before. I disagree with that. I think that the days of the Lake Monsters as a national brand are over because not being major league affiliated. But I think it will be a fun family environment. But I think, we're looking at like 750 to 1,000 people a night if you're lucky. What's the crowd size like at the Futures League?
Well, you bring that up. That's an interesting point, because 750 to 1,000 could have the Lake Monsters organization making more money, than they might otherwise, because these are college kids. You're not paying players, so they're living with families, and it's somewhat the same as it was in the New York Penn League era, where players stayed with families and all that. Their success will depend on, of course, how well they market and how well they promote and how well they do things off the field. I can tell you in Pittsfield, 2 years ago, because the Suns did not participate in the 33-game Futures League schedule last year, because of COVID requirements in Pittsfield. But in 2019, they averaged almost 1,100 fans a game, which put them in the middle of the the then 7-team league. The team that draws the most year in and year out has been the team in Worcester, the Bravehearts. They have averaged about 2,500 a game.
Wow. Now, so what are those teams doing then? Because that shocks me. Like, I just assumed, we're talking with Howard Herman of the Berkshire Eagle here on the Brady Farkas Show. I just assumed that when you leave minor league baseball, the budget's going to get smaller and the giveaways are going to get less. You know, like, I don't see giant bobblehead promotions and blankets and fleeces. Like, I thought that stuff was going to go away. So what are these teams doing to get 2,000 plus fans a night?
Well, I think it depends. Some teams will program and will promote somewhat the same way. They will spend that kind of money and bring that kind of money back in. Their budgets in general a little lower because it's not, their staffs are generally a little bit smaller. The staff here in Pittsfield is like 3 or 4 people, and and with a bunch of interns and a bunch of part-time employees. It's how you get out in your community. For example, in the 2 years previous to the Suns coming into Pittsfield, had a team in the Can-Am League, the independent league that is now part of the Frontier League, where the Tri-City Valley Cats are now a member of that independent league. And those leagues are much more expensive because the franchises are not only paying for their general manager, but they have to employ their manager and pay for all their players.
Yep.
So the margins they have are a lot different. In the, if you have a good organization, and I think Pittsfield's organization's top shelf, the Gold Clang Group does a great job. They're able to use some of what they've used elsewhere in Pittsfield. So they have a certain scale, and like some of their inflatables out in right field are the old inflatables from their team in Hudson Valley. It's, it doesn't say Suns on it, but 9-year-old kids who get bored watching baseball can go out there and slide down the slide and play in the bouncy house. Anyway, it really depends on how much CJ and his staff in Burlington can get out into the community and convince people that they are, that they're a good show to come watch.
I think there's 2 things I'll get you out of here on, 2 things that I think about this league that will be good. One, I think the players are going to be very accessible. And even though you're close to the players when it's minor league baseball, they have agents and they have teams talking to them. And, even though they're there, they don't always feel accessible and relatable. I see these college kids being really, really good with kids at the game and hanging out after the game and signing autographs and taking photos. And again, I think that will aid in the family environment of it all. How are these players and what do they do to make it a good experience for fans?
What's interesting when you talk about the players is, to a certain extent, teams in the Futures League try to bring players in from their regions. So, for example, we have always had, for the last 4 or 5 years, a handful of players from our local area who are pretty good college players and playing on the team. Now with the Lock Monsters, even though UVM does not have a baseball team, I'm sure there's pretty good high school baseball in the Burlington area, and kids go off and play college baseball elsewhere. So some of those kids will come back and get an opportunity to play for the Lake Monsters, which gives you a local kid to root for, which is something that when you're in the New York Penn League, if you get one of those, you get incredibly lucky to get a guy who was drafted or signed as a free agent by, in this case for you guys last year, 2 years ago, the Oakland A's. It's a crapshoot with that. It's less of a crapshoot this way. You're going to get some players from your area to play for you, and that will also, their mom and dad are going to come, their family members are going to come, and so forth and so on, et cetera, and it's going to make things a little bit better, and it's going to, draw fans to your ballpark.
I agree with you there. That was my second point. I think the local connection will be huge. Howard, I guess I'll get you out of here on a parting thought. You mentioned the high attendance numbers. I guess the only thing that worries me about that is The season is supposed to start at the end of May. I don't know that it will this year, but it's supposed to start at the end of May. And I'm looking at like a 3-week window before school even gets out. And I'm wondering, how are you going to fill a ballpark on a Wednesday in the school year? And I just worry about attendance early in the season. And in a short season, that's something that matters.
Well, you're not going to fill them up on a Wednesday night during the school year. That goes without saying. If the Lake Monsters had gone into affiliated baseball this year, they would be starting even earlier. So, because there's no more 90, they start a little earlier, but they also end early. The only thing is they end it in early August.
You're right.
It's a 68 games. It's on paper right now, a 68 game schedule. When I talked to the commissioner yesterday, he said if they don't get an 8th team, which they're actively seeking, they might trim that back a little bit because it might be hard to fit 7 teams in into a schedule. And one thing for the guys in Vermont, they may start to play multi-game series because Burlington it's a bit of a haul for a couple of the teams in the Futures League. If you are, if you're the Brockton Rocks or if you're the New Britain Bees, it could be a 5-6 hour bus ride.
Yeah.
And part of what the commissioner talked about to me yesterday was they look at the Futures League as a real internship for minor league baseball in the sense that their players get used to the longer bus rides. It's not the Cape where the longest bus ride is like 45 minutes on a school bus. You're hopping on one of the big coach buses and you're driving 3, 4, 5 hours from Brockton to Pittsfield, which is from virtually one end of the state of Massachusetts to the other. So you're going to get that. 68 games you'll find goes in a real hurry. Once summer comes, and the first couple of games aren't particularly well attended. The advantage that this has that maybe even the New York Penn League didn't was when the schedule starts, a lot of the teams will run school days.
Yep.
And they'll play at 10 o'clock in the morning. And every elementary school in Pittsfield comes to Wacona Park for a game. And there's like 4,000 kids there. And it's the noisiest, and I need aspirin when I'm done because the noise isn't baseball noise. It's just noise. And they're singing and they all sing the SpongeBob song and all that. So you get a couple. So when you start around Memorial Day, you get a couple of those games before you get to the major part of your summer.
Well, that is good news for sure. Howard Herman, Berkshire Eagle, sports writer and columnist on the Brady Farkas Show. Howard, we appreciate the time and the perspective on the Futures League. We'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely. And I told them schedule the opener in Burlington for the first game of the season. Have Pittsfield come there, and I told them I'll be there.
All right, Howard. We look forward to seeing you then.
Great.